My name is Clee North. I'm a proud Aboriginal woman and I belong to the Mithiga and Gungari nations of southwest Queensland. I'll be your host for this session. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are gathered today, both physically and virtually, and pay my deepest respects to elders past and present, to our next generation, of course, and I also extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples joining us today. So this year marks a powerful milestone. It's 50 years of NAIDOC Week, a movement that began as a call for justice, recognition and equality, and has grown into a national celebration of strength, culture and community. The 2025 theme, The Next Generation, Strength, Vision and Legacy, invites us to honour the stories of the past, celebrate the leaders of today, and uplift the young people who are already shaping our shared future. Today, we are privileged to be joined by an incredible panel of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander professionals. They are leaders, cultural holders, mentors and change makers who each bring their own story and strength to the education space. So through this conversation, we'll explore what strength looks like in practice, what vision is guiding our future, and what legacy we are creating together, not just for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students, but for all Australians. We encourage you to listen deeply, reflect respectfully, and carry these insights into your workplaces, your communities, and your homes long after today's session ends. So let's begin by inviting our panellists to introduce themselves and share a little bit about who they are and what inspires their work in education. So I think based on the sequence of questionings, we'll start with Jo.
Oh,
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello. Well, Nara Yumban. Hello, everyone in Waka Waka language. My name's Jo Campbell. I hail from Ngunnawal country. My connection to Ngunnawal is through my father, although that hasn't been confirmed officially. So I do need to just let everyone know that that's something that I'm working on. And, you know, we grew up, you know, with the standard, oh, there's a bit of tar in that family and kids weren't allowed to play with us and all the stuff that goes with that. So I just like to be honest about that. And Auntie did confirm it, but she has since passed, and so there's sort of reconnecting again. So that's where I come from. But certainly in terms of my own journey within education, it's been something that I've used the colour of my skin to actually really create spaces for young Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islander people to have their voices raised. But yeah, I am the principal at Silver Lining School, which is Silver Lining is a charity, Aboriginal-led charity for, you know, essentially it's around, we use the, you know, trying to prevent the school to prison pipeline that many of our young people face. So Silver Lining, we have schools in Townsville, in Ingham, in Cairns, and here in the South Burnett, servicing the young people of Cherbourg. We also had a school in Barcaldine. We still have it. We're still hoping to get that raised up. So yeah, that's it from me. We run a young women's program and a young men's program, which is supported by elders and the community around how we best work with those young people who don't fit in mainstream education. And yeah, is that all right, Clee? Is that it?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Jo.
Thanks.
So we'll pass it over to Gemma.
Hi everyone, or Kaya from Wajak Noongar country is where I'm living at the moment, but my family's from the Yidinji region up in near Cairns, so I'm across the country at the moment. So my role is education consultant at Life Without Barriers. I've been doing this role for about a year now. As we know, education is such a protective factor for a lot of our young people. My role is to really build a network around the children and advocate for opportunities, really build in opportunities for kids to access an inclusive and welcoming education experience, and really build the capacity of those people who have the strongest relationships with our young people, because we know that relationships are, you know, the most important things for our young people. So that's a little bit about my role.
Thanks, Gemma. I'm going to hand over to Harmony.
Hi, Yuji, everybody. My name's Harmony. I am Yuji's hello in Tribal Banda language. So I come from a little place called Bundaberg, and Tribal Banda is my mob. So my role at the moment, and I'm like looking at a number of faces because there's hello, Leanne, like number of a number of people that I know through the Flexi world. But yeah, my background's in education, working in Flexi schools and Montessori schools. And currently I work for an organization called Sharing Stories Foundation. And we have an education platform called Jaju Wangara. Jaju Wangara is a word that was gifted to us from a beautiful Nikinya elder, Auntie Annie. And it actually means come around and listen to your elders. And so basically we kind of travel the continent and work with elders and mob everywhere who want to tell stories or who want to share, cultural information. And then we go in with our education team and map all of that to the Australian curriculum. So it's a lot of like kind of really deadly animations and digital bilingual books and unit plans and things is kind of big part of what I do now.
Beautiful. Thanks, Harms. And now we're over to Lexi and Brenda, and you can decide who goes first. I'll put you down as couple today.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
representing the same group.
You go first, Brenda.
Yeah, well, Januel Benny, that means welcome. I'm a strongly identify as a Mandabara woman from the Mamu language nation in North Queensland. I work at Munimba-ja with Lexi and Libby, and I'm the peer support coordinator for Black creatives. Education is so important, especially for our young ones, with our generations growing up without that strong historical truth around what happened with our ancestors and the changing of the curriculum to now make sure that they're getting the correct information, I think is great. We definitely need to continue to extend on that history and that the learning within the schools and beyond. So that's what I love to do, with my kids going to their schools, making sure that I have my say as well, being on their PNC committee and just being within community and being there and supporting within the capacity of the art centre as well as personally with my own arts practice.
Thanks, Brenda.
Yeah, everyone. My name's Lexi. I'm originally from the back of Burke, so out on Nemba country, and I can trace my ancestors back to Wiradjuri country, where the women in my family worked as station blacks. So families, the Lynn Kennedys, McCarthy's as far north as Cunnamulla, Marshalls from Tibooburra through there as well. I feel really fortunate because when I was still living in Burke as a kid, I was raised by my nanny and by my mum. So we lived across the road from each other at the edge of town. And I just would like to acknowledge my nanny and everything that she did for me as well. I've been living up here on Jinnaburra country for about 5 years now, raising 4 kids. So that's been my main focus. We're a neurodivergent family, so accessing education has been something that I've been really passionate about. And I did do a teaching degree in my younger life and just found that mainstream education didn't fit in with my values, and it was really hard for it to fit in with the additional needs required of my family. So I feel really honoured to be asked to speak today because by no long shot am I an expert in any area. I'm just like fumbling my way through in lots of ways, but I am really fortunate to be working at Munimba-ja. So we've just got art centre status this year. We are very grassroots, but we have an all Aboriginal team, which consists of just the 3 of us, but then we have an all Aboriginal board too, with some really staunch people that I'm really fortunate enough to look up to. So we've got Libby Harwood as our director, we've got Uncle Lyndon Davis, Nadine McDonald-Dowd, Carly Forrest, and Delene Briscoe. So really staunch leadership, making sure we're doing everything proper way as we go, and just, yeah, trying to set something up that, you know, honors that we are grassroots and learning from others and doing our best for the young ones and people in our community too.
Lovely. Thank you, Lexi. So as you can see, we've got an amazing panel today, and if everyone's feeling good, we might jump straight into the questions. Yeah. Okay, so we're looking at the different parts of the theme for this year, and the first set of questions are around strength and really focusing on identity, resilience, and community. And the first question is for you, Jo. What does strength look like in your work as an Aboriginal educator today?
That's a really great question, and straight away, I think of the young people and what it, you know, that's essentially the focus here for me anyway, is around how I build the strength of our young people. So the strength of people often say our kids aren't resilient, and I think, oh God, yes they are. We have, you know, Cherbourg, like many missions, has a, you know, really significant and traumatic history. And so much of the damage that was caused through that process is still very relevant to our young people today. And so strength for me looks like creating a place for young people to come where they feel safe enough to explore the things that they've lost. So, you know, often they don't understand who their mob are, where they come from, the history of Cherbourg, the history of Australia. They just live it without understanding it. So, you know, building their strength and capacity to engage in what it is to be a young Aboriginal person today is, singularly our biggest focus. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I love that, Jo. Thank you for articulating that, because something just clicked inside of me and went, oh, yeah, that's a lived experience that I've had, and I'm sure everyone on the panel can agree, but never really had the opportunity to articulate that, you know, we are living with something that we've lost and we've not really been able to name that thing. And it's such a strength to provide a space of safety to explore that. Thank you. Gemma, next question's for you. How do you maintain cultural strength and personal well-being in systems that can be challenging?
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I was just reflecting on what Jo said around, I think systems can be very isolating for young people, and certainly I've experienced that myself. So it's been really important for me to have really strong relationships around me that are supportive. And as an educator, I feel a real huge responsibility to the young people I work with for the next generation in education. And it's really easy to absorb, you know, some of the fear and the pain and the shame that some of our young people can experience, which is why self-care is really important for your own well-being as educators, and also teaching our young people what self-care actually looks like or means to them. And that comes often from a cultural perspective. So for me, I need to be near the ocean to do my processing, to decompress, and it's about teaching the young people on what does that feel, where do you get that feeling from, where you can be grounded, and offering that safe place to discuss that. I think self-reflection is really important as an educator, of knowing your strengths and capabilities, knowing what's out of your control and what's sort of in your control. And again, that messaging for our young people as well, because I feel that they carry a huge sense of responsibility as well. And that's invisible a lot of the time to us, but it is really there. So when you have supervision or cultural supervision, I think that's a really can be a really helpful tool. And so if you can offer that safe place to a young person, I think that's our responsibility, and something that will, for the future, be a skill that those young people can rely on and carry.
Great, thanks, Gemma. The next question's for Harmony. Can you share a moment when you witnessed the strength of culture in the work that you do?
Yes. Can I share a few moments?
Yeah, go for it. I know, I was actually
I love
thinking
the
about this question.
I know.
It's so big.
Yeah, and I was thinking, I love it. It was fun when you sent the questions through because I was like, oh, there are so many, and I thought, okay, narrow it down to at least 3. But I reckon in the work that we do at Djadji Wangara, because you're visiting communities all the time who are sharing culture and incredible ancient practice, but then also culture in the way that you see they'll immediately scoop you up, or immediately be like, oh, cool. So where are you from? Tripoli and Bunda. Oh, well, actually, I know Auntie, but, and just this kind of beautiful way of in that traveling work that we do, where culture is just at the absolute center of it and immediately makes everybody feel protected and safe. And so I think that is just, as a broad example of, I think, culture, when it has the opportunity to be central to our work, it is such an important factor for it, for settling everybody. I think then I was thinking of, what are some schools or, things where I've really seen it, sing. And I was thinking about a little school on Gunai country, Bairnsdale West Primary, they're called. And we went in there and did some workshops with the young people because they were creating animations. And this school is, I'm telling you, just one of the best schools ever for having their elders front and center of everything they do. It is such, it's beautiful to see. And Auntie Doris had rolled into school and all the kids just swarmed around her and they're like, Auntie, 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 and then we did this and then we did that. And it was just this beautiful grandma vibe of culture being at the absolute center for these young people, non-Indigenous young people too, who felt this exact same connection to Auntie Doris. And I just wanted to share really quickly, they were creating these animations for a beautiful film that was made. And one of the young Gunai kids came up to me and he goes, Oi, I've been thinking. I was like, okay. And he showed me his pictures and he goes, do you think I'm a good drawer? I was like, yes, this is excellent. Tell me, what is it? And he was explaining where it was, and it was how the river had met, the sea in the forest area. And he goes, but there are some other kids here who aren't good drawers. And I went, okay. And he goes, and it's not fair if they don't end up in the animation. And I was like, that's so true. And then his little mate came along and said, so we reckon you should let people just draw the Koori flag. And so we created this other way so that every single kid in the class could have their animations. And now it's this beautiful creation story of Boran and Tak, where at the end we have dancing love hearts in Aboriginal flag colours and dancing love hearts in all, and it's just these random pictures. And I just thought, wow, this school is just so good at making, everyone wants to be a part of this, and I think that is just so beautiful to see when culture really is in the forefront and just so embraced. And, huge shout out to the non-Indigenous staff there as well, who were just so always looking to how they can put culture in the front of, of schooling, and just what that plays out like. For me, that's strength in culture, big time.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Thank you, Harmony. And Harmony is the most epic storyteller ever. It's beautiful. But, that's so transferable.
Third one, but I was like, I've talked too much.
But when you think about what you've just, articulated for us, it's so transferable, whether it's in a home or it's in a school or it's within another system, the systems that we're working in out-of-home care. Having culture in the centre is such a protective and therapeutic measure for everybody that's involved in that space. So Thank you. It's such an important thing. We're going to move on to vision now, which is really focusing on change, hope, and the future of education. And so this question's a shared question for Lexi and Brenda, or you can take turns, or if you feel you want to speak to it. What's your vision for the future of arts in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander education?
Well, I'll take lead on this one. So I think it's very important to be able to tell our stories in whichever way that we can. It's not just written, it's not just verbally, but art is a really, really huge part of that in telling our stories. So it needs to be easily accessible within schools, both primary and secondary, and alternative schooling as well, because like I'm another parent with neurodivergent children, and having the normal, like the school curriculum, the way that it is, the way that schools are set out, doesn't work for one of my kids. So he is a very active drawer. Both of them are artists as well, I think they're going to become. But they need to be able to access it all the way through their schooling and beyond. So uni and any colleges or programs like how we have with Munimba-ja and any art centres and residencies with galleries and stuff like that. It's very hard at the moment to navigate that space. I have found within schooling, because there's not a lot of support within that, with liaison officers, with funding as well. I find it quite hard in getting the correct people in to be able to do that and be able to nurture that. So that is quite important, to be able to have those educators in that space from a young age, to be able to follow that through. I know quite a few programs have stopped being given, that I heard last week in the northern Queensland. So, you know, even having to move away from your home, your country, to access that within a high school or beyond, I think is very, like, it hurts me, because that's what we've had to do when I was younger. So yeah, I think it's very important to have those in place from an early age so that they can be continued throughout.
Thanks, Brenda. I'm wondering, I'm just throwing this one in there, it's not on the script, but Lexi, are you able to share with us a little bit about the exhibition that you have at the moment in the gallery?
Mute. Unmute, sis.
Thanks. Just started having the biggest yarn and I was on mute. So we were still waiting to get a little bit of NAIDOC funding, and Libby and I just decided, so Libby Harwood, the director of Munimba-ja, we're like, nah, even if we don't get this funding, we're going to do something for these Maori kids at the high school. So we just started going in there anyway, and staying up late doing our other work just so we could engage with them. But it was really so we did like 3 days, maybe like 3.5 days total, just working with like a small group. Like we started out with, I think there was like about 9 kids. Couple of kids dropped off because they were like, nah, I'm not an artist, no matter how hard we tried to convince them that they are. And then just across a few sessions, like we had an elder, Ani Dinawan, Pam White, come in for one of the days too. And just sort of like created a safe space, like in their environment, where it was just them and us, and we were just like listening to music, making art in lots of other ways too. Like I'm a big believer, like just from my arts education background, that in order to make art accessible, we shouldn't be trying to make art that looks like a certain thing. So we do like a lot of like play-based, like just creative exploration sort of stuff. So the kids were just fully hands-on the whole time. And then by the end of the few sessions, we had 4 kids that completed like finished work from the high school. That was me trying to do inverted commas. And then we also put up all their experimental stuff on the walls of the gallery too. And then we put up a like interactive wall, so when like young people coming into the exhibition, they can answer some prompts about what sort of future ancestor they would like to be remembered for, like, you know, just things like that to get people involved in the topics we were exploring. Then we found out the funding came through, and then we put on a really big party, which was amazing. We had bunch of local emerging musicians come in, so really deadly young people. Layla Havana, I believe her last name is. We had Jada Marley, who's Jillian Briscoe's daughter, come in and do spoken word. Will Murphy, who's a Jinnaburra man that plays for the Karupa band. Really deadly feed. Yeah, and just really celebrated all these young people. And we had Braylon Rolfe come in, and she read this really beautiful written piece about what it means to her to be a young person, and what sort of vision she has as well. So yeah, it was really good. And now we get to look at their art every day when we go into the gallery, and all the work that they did and all the stories that they've embedded in their art making too. So yeah.
It's beautiful. Thank you. We're back to you, Joe. Another question around legacy. So how do you carry cultural knowledge and community stories into your teaching or leadership?
Press the button, Joe. I got to tell you that 2 young men have just walked into my office. One was saying, Joe, the pizzas are ready. You've got to come out. And then the other one to deliver a pizza that they've made for me. So I currently can't think, because all I can smell is this delicious pizza that I just want to face plant. But anyway, I'm going to try. We're really lucky, like from our perspective, we're on 400 acres of beautiful Waka Waka country. So, you know, we really, that connecting to country is really the singular biggest factor that we see in connecting kids, in connecting young people into their story and into you know, into their story. So they're how we connect with everything, who we are as people, and the history embedded in this country. So, you know, for us, I'm just so grateful that I get to work for an Aboriginal-led organisation that prioritises that, and that we see that very much as a way, as a future, to not just provide kids with that understanding around their stories and around the stories of the country, but also as very real employment opportunities. Because in our vision, we want to see young people, you know, thriving in both worlds. No world is greater than the other. Like, you know, that is what's really important here too. They are, we prioritize them equally. So this 400 acres that we have is where young people get to connect. We've got, they've got there's just so many parts of it, and around how our young people do connect with the country. They've all got pieces of rock that they've painted with their story, and it's on section parts of the land, so they can go and sit and do some deep listening in those spaces when they're feeling like they need to, and we know that we can trust them to do that. And so, you know, like in terms of vision, like that is for us, the priority is for young people to learn their stories through connecting with the country. Does that make sense? I'm struggling to think.
No, well, you did a great job, and I can affirm that, you know, the feed there at Silver Linings is really good. Have been there and have eaten food that the young people have cooked, and it's great.
It's my office is just like a pizza area, and I'm salivating,
and it's delivered to you. How good!
How good is that? Anyway, yeah, thank you. I hope I've answered the question.
You did. Thanks. Harmony, next one for you.
Yes.
So what legacy do you hope to leave for the next generation of Aboriginal educators and students?
I reckon this one was tricky, Clee. I was like, legacy. We've got so many years to go. But I was thinking, I was thinking about schools I've worked in and then the work that we do now to ensure that teachers have support to embed First Nations perspectives. And I was thinking, all right, if you're really going to leave a legacy, what do you want to see in classrooms? And I actually thought to myself, fun. I feel like somewhere along the way, and there's just so many pressures on teachers and actually, and homes, bloody capitalism, but it's like it sucked the fun out of everything, and I was thinking we need fun culturally as well. Young people need fun. Like I loved hearing Lexi's project and, rolling in there and just doing it anyway. And, like there's so much red tape that we've got to contend with. There's so many things that you've got to, funding, there's all these things that get in the way of it. But if you could really just have one thing that's happening, and I think it's just so connected to our culture, to be yarning, to have a laugh, to muck around, to have fun. And I think that's probably like the main thing that I'd love to see in the home family unit and in schools. It's okay to have fun, and it just totally opens a young person's, like willingness to then learn and be taught. If they, I just think about some teachers that I've seen before, and I just want to be like, can you loosen up, man? Like,
Yeah.
I'm afraid of you. I don't even know what I'm scared to learn something in English today. Like, how do you think these fellas are feeling? And so I just would love to see fun. And then, in my more professional answer would be to really see First Nations perspectives embedded in curriculum. And I think now that I've worked just clearly in that space for 3 years, it's just everywhere I look now. I can't look at an English assignment and not see an amazing First Nations perspective that could be put into it. I can't look at, learning a science, any science lesson that does not have a link to First Nations histories and cultures on this country that have been happening for thousands of years. I just can't unsee it now. And so I think the legacy would be to really support teachers and homes to find that and to how to open up that kind of eye to be able to see these perspectives. And I think just one more little one, maybe I'll answer it later, but to not be afraid of truth telling.
Yeah.
I think
Beautiful.
so many teachers are afraid of truth telling, and it's like, this is our shared histories of this country, of the land you're walking on. It's our shared histories. And so we would teach any other history lesson. How come we're not talking and teaching about, these really important parts of our narrative?
Yeah, thanks, Harmony. It's such an important thing, and it really will centre a lot of the identities for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children, but also for other children as well, and their relationships with this country and just the amount of untapped knowledges and beauty that we have. And we'll provide a link to the work that Harmony does so that people can jump on and have a look at some amazing resources that they can use in the home, and they can also share with schools to use as well. And just a little shout out to Harmony, because her and her team got nominated for the NAIDOC award this year for their resource development. And I know she won't say it herself, but yeah, some amazing work.
Thanks,
you. Harmony. Back to you, Gemma. So we're going to move on to allyship and the collaboration and respect that we need in the sector. So, Gemma, what does meaningful allyship from non-Indigenous educators or leaders look like in practice?
I guess it's about really building, again, trusting, genuine relationships with Aboriginal people. It's about not only creating those relationships with the children and young people that you work with, but including their family and wider community and cultural group, because Aboriginal children are not just one person, they're part of a greater whole, and it's really very important for those relationships to be seen in that context. So I really feel that that's what meaningful allyship is all about. It's about then taking those relationships and creating a really safe and inclusive, welcoming environment to grow those relationships. It's also about partnering with Aboriginal-led community organisations in your local area and getting to know how you might be able to work together, how you might be able to share skills, and like Harmony was saying, bring in that skills and knowledge from thousands of years and bring it back into that curriculum, into real world opportunity and thinking and how it applies to that young person's growth and development. But like I keep saying, you can't do anything without that connection and that relationship. So yeah, I don't know what more I can say about that, but yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Gemma. Harms, I'll put you on the spot again for the next question. And this is really around, like, we obviously tweaked this a little bit for our audience, but we've got a lot of staff that are going into schools and they're advocating for our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students to feel more connected to culture and curriculum. So what advice would you give to the staff or to schools or to systems that genuinely want to embed Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voices in culture and curriculum?
Yeah, it's a good one. And even just thinking back to, days when we were working in Inala, Clee and Leanne and Joe and even as First Nations women being like, who can we talk to? Who are the elders here? And there's so many like teachers that we speak to as we travel who'll go, we actually really do want to connect, but we don't know where to start. Where do you even go? And so I started writing a little list. I was like, okay, I'll try and be prepared for this. But I think and Gemma just said it really clearly before, like you do have to build the relationships. But for people who are sitting there being like, where the hell do I start? I think sometimes in a community, a suburb or a town, go straight to Aboriginal health. Like there'll be an Aboriginal health service that you can go and have a yarn with. Aboriginal corporations, you can look those up online and just go and have a yarn. Like that would be my like advice first up. And it's things I've told teachers to do. Like, do you want some support to reach out and what that might look like, and see if you can go and have a cup of tea and introduce yourself and start by saying, hey, thanks heaps for letting me live and work on your country. I love it. And I'm actually a teacher down at blah blah, and I'm just wanting to make sure that we can, we're making sure we're acknowledging country correctly. Or those conversations, I know from experience with my sister working in Tribble-Bunda, mob, when teachers do that, I just feel like elders and mobs straight up are like, oh, cool, come in. Yeah, come and have a cup of tea. Like I feel like the response is always just so warm because you're being seen and respected and your country acknowledged. So I just think like a couple of things just straight off the bat would be that kind of stuff. I wrote as well, like I wrote like a thing with teachers, and then I was thinking about systems because I say this like it's easy and sometimes it's not. Like sometimes you're contending, be it, in the home or supporting others in different scenarios, or the school. Sometimes you're contending with an organizational structure that stands in the way of you doing this work. Sometimes you have a very patriarchal, white, discriminatory structure or bureaucratic kind of structure that is getting in the way of you actually being able to do this really like human connecting work. And so I think that is tricky, and that actually involves conversations with the leadership team around, hey, if you actually care about this RAP thing, if you care about this, if you care about us actually supporting First Nations young people to feel comfortable and culturally safe in schools, you actually need to give us time to go and have these yarns. You actually need to make, allowances for aunties and uncles to come into the school and sit with us and for us to make them a cup of tea. So there's some kind of tricky parts of it as well. And then I just wrote some of the easier stuff, which is there are heaps of resources online. And, you know, obviously I'm going to be like, Jaji Wangara, that we're great. But there are others. And my advice would be look for resources online that are written by mob. There are a bunch of resources that aren't, and some stuff that's like, will lead you astray. But, you know, organisations like Common Ground, First Nations, Djadji Wangara, there are other education resources as well. Even cool.org, we now know some of their writers who write for cool.org who are First Nations. So any of the First Nations content on cool.org is written by a lovely Baili woman who is amazing. And so, you know, there are resources out there to support. Clea and I wrote a little set of resources as well for Common Ground a little while ago. So there's stuff if you do actually jump online and have a look at some of these First Nations-led organisations to support. Have I gone off track with the actual question, Clea?
No, you haven't. You're still on track. Sorry, I'm getting lost in your story too. No, you're still on track because we're talking about genuinely embedding the you know, culture into the curriculum. So you're offering ways to search for culturally appropriate resources, which is fantastic.
We're back on track, yes. And then
I can see Megan's popped our dreamy resource that Harms and I wrote together into the chat if anyone wants to have a look at it. Thanks, Megan. She's working really hard in the background for us.
But then, yeah, I think also, you know, starting with the local cultural connection, even all the resources that we write for our organisation always bring the educator or parent back to, hey, so this is the Birrarung, which is on Wurundjeri country, and here are these beautiful stories attached to this river that's been incorrectly named the Yarra River. What's a place in your local community which might have also been named incorrectly? How can you find that out? Who do you think? And then, you know, even actually listing some support for how can you connect with your local mob to make sure you're honouring that river system in the correct way? You know, so there's little things like that where it's like always bring it back to your local, you know, where you are. So you're respecting the country you're on. But there's a few little tips there just for, and PD, First Nations run PD as well.
Thanks, Harms. That's some great stuff there for people to follow up with. And thanks again, Megan, for popping the information into the chat for us. So we're going to move on to the next section, which is around inspiration and celebrating the next generation, because that's the core of the theme for this year. And this question's for Lexi and Brenda. We've got a little bit of time if you both want to answer it. What gives you hope when you look at the next generation of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander young people?
I think looking at our mob now and this wonderful panel, us doing the work that we're doing inspires the younger generation. You know, you see a lot of it around here, and our kids, you know, interacting with each other and each other's parents, and it's always auntie and uncle, and asking the questions, being able to get the answers, and just communicating, doing as well, like they're always wanting to do something, try something new, just watching us do what we do. I love that. I know that we've got it's called Radiant Life. It's a church and school in Innisfail for First Nations children, and they educate with the curriculum with their church, and also with extracurricular activities as well, in teaching them what needs to be taught on country, around culture, and what they need to grow up as being staunch, you know, strong Black kids. So all the people that I fangirl over, as my friends will say, they're the ones that I look at and I see people going, oh, who's that? Oh, what are they saying? And connecting with them. They're the ones that are like our ancestors paving the way, and the younger ones, you can see them. You can see more of them coming up and taking notice and speaking out, and having space, like not just asking for space, but taking that space because they know that they need to be able to be heard, but in the right way, obviously. But yeah, I think it's amazing to be able to see that and to see them grow with the legacy that we're also leaving and teaching them. And I can see that personally. Lexi, do you want to?
I don't know. I feel like you pretty well covered it. For me, it's just looking at the young people around me, regardless of, you know, where they're at in life, but just watching them like exist in a way that's true to who they are. Like even when I think about my cousins back home and stuff, like raising their kids as young parents and their babies, and then even my kids, like my 14-year-old currently does this thing wherever she gets a written assignment, she turns it into some sort of decolonial unpacking of whatever the subject matter is that the teacher's given her. But I think coming back to like the young people at Munimba-ja, like a lot of them are our family. Like we're such like a tight crew, and when we're having our gatherings, it's like all of our kids are there, and just thinking about the things that they're comfortable to talk about and celebrate or voice in their own way. Yeah, I think that's what gives me hope, actually being with the young ones. Yeah.
Thanks, Lexi. Thanks, Brenda. How you going there, Joe? You good for one more question? Oh, you're on mute. Press the button, Joe.
I just got a connection saying that my internet connection was unstable. So look out if I miss out. I don't know. Go on, fire at one at
I need an internet connection.
Yeah. I was going to say that. Whoa. This pizza's driving me mad, I tell you. It's driving me mad.
I'll let you go soon. So how can we, as a collective, from your perspective, support our young mob, to see themselves as future educators, leaders, and change makers?
Wow, that is so huge. It was funny, I talked with the young people about this around what I was doing this morning or this afternoon, and if there's anything that they, is there anything they'd like to say? And there was, aside from the usual, we'd like more money, we'd like a new basketball courts everywhere. It was just about just wanting to be heard, like just being heard. And for like we're a special assistance school, so we've got the young people who aren't thriving, who aren't that sounds wrong, but who aren't in mainstream school. They're not sports stars, they're not getting A's. They are the kids that are jumping in and out of stolen cars and are in and out of juvie, and who cop a lot from community. And so for them, just being able to voice that they want to be heard, that they want to be seen, that they actually have that, that they want people to see their value, is that, for me, is what I find really powerful for those kids that are left out, who aren't the sports stars, who are the statistic, who are the the ones that everyone sort of avoids. They still want to be heard. They want to be respected. They want to be valued. And I love that schools like us, and and we're not the only ones. I want to acknowledge Dale and Michelle here. I can just see Dale just above the unstable sign that I've got. It's funny, but it's really, there's a lot of really great schools doing really great things for our young people. I feel very fortunate that I'm in a school that is, 100% Aboriginal, student population. So we've got, we try really hard to employ staff from community and get that balance right, so that, our young people can see themselves in the staff around them. For me, that's I feel really fortunate to be able to do that. And I've waffled and I've forgotten what I'm supposed to.
Oh, you did not waffle, and you answered it beautifully. And we're getting really close to time, and I did want to open up the floor just to see if there was any questions from any of the audience. But I just wanted to just summarize a few things. So we've really heard that culture, when centered in any situation, whether it's home, schools, or system, different systems that we work in, has such a therapeutic but also protective factor, not just for our young people but for all young people, and that giving voice and agency to young people that feel like they're on the fringes is really what we need to do to make sure that they can see themselves as our change makers of the future. And I love that as a panel we're all doing really amazing, important, fun work to bring that to our communities. And I just want to thank you all so much for being here with me today and sharing in this yarn. It's been great. And Megan will let us know if there's any questions or if anyone wants to make any comments before. We've got 4 minutes, I think it is.
There's nothing in the chat at the moment, just some lovely comments, but nothing there.
That's okay. I'm going to do a few plugs then.
Good one, go for it.
For any of those people in West Moreton area of Queensland, near Meanjin, get out to Redcliffe Art Gallery. Brenda, Lexi and I curated a show with some other Black creatives called Living Archives, and it's sitting in the Redcliffe Art Gallery alongside Judy Watson's work. And help me out here, Lexi, Archie Moore's work. There's also a great space that Lexi and Libby have created that's for young people, children and young people to come in and really think about connection to country and their place on country in that area. So, and Harm's obviously got some great resources that we're going to pop up, links to. For anyone that works in Life Without Barriers in Western Australia and hasn't had an opportunity to meet Gemma yet, make sure you connect with her. She's your education consultant, and is a great resource to help support any of our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children in their school journey. And Jo, thank you so much as well, like bringing the young person voice to this conversation. It's so important that we're always centering the young person in every conversation that we have, but particularly for our young ones. They have as much equality when it comes to our yarning space as an elder, because we all see ourselves as important as each other in our communities. There's no hierarchy and everyone has a place and a purpose. So thank you all again. If there's no questions, then just want to say it has been an absolute privilege.
Thank you so much, Clee, and everyone else.
Thank you, Clee. Thank you for inviting me. I forgot that my audio was on, and I actually got goosebumps with what you were saying, because it's so true. We all are, everyone's equal in the circle, but we all have different responsibilities, and that's what's important to acknowledge. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you, everyone. Can I eat my pizza now? Can I probably eat it?
Is it warm still?
I don't care at this point.
I just
You're gonna have to nuke it.
have a look at the chat too, everyone, because there's some lovely comments for the panel. So saying
Awesome. Thank you, Clee.
And if those people in the panel, I know Jo wants to have it neat, but if you want to stay on just for a minute for a debrief, we can do that as well. We'll just say goodbye to everyone else that's logged on today.
Yanandi, everyone, which is yarn later.
Yeah. Nula Nagala, which is see you later.
Thanks, everyone. That was lovely. So great.
Thank you so much.
See ya.
Bye, Clee.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.